Does anybody else get a little bit jealous, a little bit envious from time to time when you hear about these witches and other spiritual practitioners who have had these awesome lineages and traditions passed down to them from generation to generation? It's such an awesome and wonderful thing. It's incredible. It's so cool. It's so magical. But what about those of us who didn't have that ancestral knowledge passed down to us? What about those of us who don't have any traditions to continue? Maybe you have a family lineage of witchcraft, but the magic got lost through generations. Or maybe you know for a fact you have no witchcraft in your family, but you want to connect to something deeper. You want it to make sense to you. You want to connect with your ancestral magic, but don't know how. Today we are going to discuss some ways where you can refuel your soul and connect with the spirit of your ancestors, whatever that looks like, bringing you a little closer to that deep-rooted wisdom that lies within us all. Hi there, I'm Anya with the Season of Anya, and welcome to my channel where we are building an empowering community full of healers as we heal ourselves through yoga, magic, and witchcraft. Today I'm going to give you 5 tips so you can better connect with the spirit of your ancestors in whatever capacity that means to you. Ancestral magic isn't something like we are seeking the tomes of the family lineage and to connect us to the higher, greater magic of the divine. I don't know. As witches, it is so important for us to connect with that ancestral wisdom, that ancestral knowledge, because that is kind of the foundation of our practice. We are carrying that wisdom. We are carrying those traditions. We are essentially keeping the spirit of our ancestors alive. And we keep the spirit of our ancestors alive by listening to the messages of their wisdom. You know that old saying, youth is wasted on the young? Yeah, it's because the youth haven't lived long enough. They haven't experienced hardship to understand wisdom and have lived through those life lessons. They have not lived through life. But what's really cool about connecting to your ancestral knowledge, your ancestral wisdom, is that we are able to expedite things a little quicker, not make those same mistakes. But it's all through building that organic relationship. It's by listening. I cannot stress that enough. So hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be left with a little bit more direction on how to organically build and cultivate a relationship with your ancestors that makes sense. So to begin, the biggest piece of advice that I can give you, especially if you have no relationship at all with your ancestors, maybe you identify as, call yourself a mutt, look up where you are from and learn the history of the land. You got to do some type of DNA, ancestry test. That kind of goes without saying. The importance of this is not to gatekeep yourself in the process because you are here as a result of your ancestors. Even if you have 20% Native American in you, that is part of your blood. You needed that lineage to get there. Now, it's not to be going around and saying, hey, I'm a Native American princess and I am, a descendant of the land. No, but you would be doing yourself a disservice by ignoring that part of you. And if that's the biggest connection you have to ancestral lineage, own it and embrace it. So once you have a little bit of direction on where you came from and where your family's from, what you want to do is start looking up the traditions of that area. Traditions are what makes a culture a culture. So using me, for example, I am 100% Italian. My father is a straight descendant from Italy and my mother's parents were also descendants from Italy. So I am lucky. I do have a lot of those traditions. But even with that in mind, I still have been disconnected from my Italian magic. A great starting point would just be going on YouTube and looking up understanding Italian culture. Then what you're gonna do after you kind of get a deep dive and vibe of the culture, of your heritage, look up the whys behind that tradition. Why does Italian have XYZ in their culture? Really do a deep dive. This is going to be a journey connecting with your lineage. This isn't something that you're just gonna get to finish in an afternoon and suddenly you're a certified Italian or whatever. It doesn't work that way. This is something that may take you a few months, maybe even a few years to understand. It's a marathon, not a race. But this is how you build more of an organic flow versus just trying to cram a bunch of information in your mind, deeming yourself an expert on something you really don't know anything about. So once you start getting an idea of your culture and seeing if it resonates with you, then over time, what you're gonna wanna do, you're gonna wanna look up your culture's folk magic. The reason why understanding folk magic is so important is because, at least for me, folk magic was a game changer. Why though? So someone like me who knows I have Italian witchcraft in my blood just based through conversations on my family, I know things have gotten lost. They weren't really vibing with the traditions. So what happens? Things get lost. Years ago, I tried to do some searches on Italian witchcraft, and all I was getting were these academic studies about Wicca and Italian witchcraft. It didn't make sense to me. And again, this is coming from a perspective as someone who can at least connect the dots a little bit, so I really hope this information does resonate for you. I know that stregas, Italian witches, are very popular in Italian culture, but the information I was reading from these books and looking up was very much a background of Wicca. No shade on Wicca, but Italians don't really resonate with Wiccan traditions. That isn't Italian magic. So, what is folk magic? Folk magic are those little traditions, those superstitions. It's those little isms that create magic on the day to day. I'll do a whole video on stregas because I could go on, but it's the little magic. A lot of traditions aren't high magic. We're talking the day-to-day stuff. We are talking just getting through that grind, but living a magical, happy life. Not necessarily all about casting spells and doing all the things. It's about creating magic every single day. Final thoughts on folk magic before we continue on, because that's a whole video in itself. But a lot of times with these traditions, especially like the Italian strega, she wouldn't identify as a Wiccan at all. In fact, she wouldn't even identify herself as a witch. A lot of these cultures actually are very firmly rooted in Catholicism. So that's why I would personally implore you to go more of the folk magic route when you are trying to connect with your ancestral magic as a witch. Folk magic is more about the traditions on a smaller scale, but on an everyday scale. So that's why I suggest, if you're trying to connect with the spirit of your ancestors in the spirit of your ancestral magic, that you dive deep into folk magic. Moving on. If at all possible, try to visit the land of where your family came from. Obviously, you can't go to Italy every week on a whim, I understand that, but if you can, make it a point in your life, at some point in your lifetime, to do so. I am very fortunate and got to go to Italy a couple years ago, and let me tell you, visiting and stepping back on my land, on my family's land, I had a whole spiritual experience there. I really did. I had a spiritual awakening there. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm home. And even if you don't have that deep connection with your land, something about stepping on the land where you're from will forever change you. Some other things you can do too while visiting that land: go on all the tours, as many tours as you can go on, especially the ones that really take the academics out of it and talk about the history, really immerse you in the vibe of what was happening in the moment, right? When you visit, try to go visit a temple or a church. Try to see if you can get in touch with a community out there. See if there's any type of magical shops out there. They're not probably going to be advertised like they are out here, but try to get in touch with that and ask questions. You'd be surprised. People are very helpful with that. Okay, an international trip is maybe not something that you can just book on a whim. I understand that. But depending on where you live, if you're near some type of major metropolitan area, a lot of times you can find cluster neighborhoods of people who do come from your ethnic background. Go and visit, walk around, soak in the energy. See if they have like a little bodega or mercado, right? A little store. I swear, even walking inside of an Italian market, it just hits different. I'm like, yeah, I remember those smells. Those are the smells I grew up cooking with. Grab a bite to eat and just kind of watch people, just soak it in. That's what it's about. It's not by checking everything off your list and being an expert. It's kind of one of those things like, those who get it. That's what it is. It's just about understanding and connecting. It doesn't have to be that deep. And if you've got nothing else, just go on a Facebook group and start talking to people. Ask questions. You can find so many things, learn so many nuances, and maybe even make a friend and they'll be willing to talk to you. It happens. People love to share. Another great way to connect with your ancestral magic is to look up traditional recipes from the area. Look them up, cook it, try it. Maybe order yourself something imported if you want to be bougie, but a lot of times, especially with folk magic, the magic is in the creation of the dish. The magic is what goes into the process of baking bread, of rolling out the dough. You know what I'm saying? So look it up and check it out. Moving on to the last, but also a very important tip is create an altar for your ancestors. Feed that altar, connect with that altar, build a relationship with them. Don't know what to put on it? Again, that goes in with looking up the history. What resonates with you when you are connecting to your heritage? Currently, I have pasta straight up on my altar because I like the energy it invokes. You could start by printing out a picture of the flag from your country or place you want to visit. You could write your last name on a piece of paper or print it out and just put that on your altar. Ancestors love wine and love tobacco, but connect with that altar, make it your own, and build a relationship. And then make sure to listen. Yeah, this is a very slow process that takes time, but that's any relationship you're building with anyone. It's not like, hey, give me all the wisdom. Ask for it, wait for it, connect, and give it time, and keep connecting. So let me know, how do you guys like to connect with your ancestral magic? Where are your ancestors from? Drop a comment down below. That way we can share and connect with this community and grow and learn from one another, because that's what this journey is all about. I hope you enjoyed this video on connecting with your ancestral magic. So much love and gratitude to you all on this journey of healing. I will catch you on the next one.